Started out on a one-way train. Always knew where I was gonna go next. Didn't know until I saw.
Welcome to another empowering episode of Pull in Perseverance, the space where pharmacy meets purpose and voices reshape the future of healthcare. I'm your host, Professor Nhlanhla, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by a powerhouse in public health and pharmacy leadership, a man whose energy is as infectious as his vision is bold. This individual reminds me of a quote by Barack Obama, which says, "Change doesn't come from waiting on the system, it comes from those who challenge it, lead it, and believe that empowering others is the surest way to transform it." Unquote. We're talking about none other than Mr. Nhlanhla Mafarafara, acting CEO of Nhlanhla District Hospital, Sector Vice President of the Pharmaceutical Society of South Africa, and a global contributor to the International Pharmaceutical Federation. From leading hospital turnarounds in Limpopo to mentoring over 600 young pharmacists, Mr. Mafarafara is not just building systems, he's building people. He's an author, podcaster, coach, and a fierce advocate for values-based leadership, high-performance teams, and unlocking the full potential of pharmacists in health systems. Whether it's through his books, which is Step to the Next Level or Finish with a Bang, or through his work with the PSSA Young Pharmacist Group, he brings charisma, clarity, and a call to action wherever he goes. So buckle up, this conversation is going to challenge, inspire, and ignite something in you. Let's dive in with the ever passionate, always impactful Mr. Nhlanhla Mafarafara. Hi, Mr. Mafarafara. Welcome to Pull in Perseverance, and thank you for being here. I'm really honored to have you as a guest on the podcast. How have you been?
I'm good, and thank you for having me. It's a good day. I've missed this quest by more than 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, but it's a long time.
That's
long
okay,
time,
better late than never.
Yeah, I'm glad that we finally get to do it.
Thank you for joining me. So your bio sketch is so it's such an esteemed bio sketch that you have. You've been through multiple sectors in pharmacy, and I must say I'm most impressed with how a pharmacist becomes a CEO. But before we begin, please can you give us some background on yourself for those of the viewers that don't know what your background's all about?
Yeah, it's easier when people say it than when I'm saying it. I am a pharmacist. I am actually a public health pharmacist. I've been in public health, particularly leadership and governance, for probably more than a decade now. That's what I've been doing. I started in management somewhere around 2013, and I've never looked back. I am a mentor to so many young pharmacists in South Africa. I am also a member of the South African Association of Hospital and Institutional Pharmacists. I just finished my term as president. I am the vice president of the PSSA as well. I've recently started contributing in the FIP, in the Global Advisory Group on Medicine Usage, under the hospital pharmacy section. Something I think that's quite exciting for me. I'm also involved with the YPG, particularly the level of coaching. I come from a background of coaching as a personal development coach and a mentor, and I'm a public speaker. I think the most thing that I love the most is public speaking. Yeah, that's quite clear from your bio sketch, and very excited to have you here. So I'm sure you're going to inspire very many young pharmacists in this interview. But before I begin to get into the motivational component of your career path, I'd just like to know, how did you get to be CEO? So what was your journey? Because that's an unusual title for a pharmacist. I mean, my experience, be it as little as it is, I haven't come across many pharmacists who are CEOs of a hospital. So how did you get there? Yeah, there is quite a few. Yeah, it's very few of us. In Limpopo, I think we are two. There were two others, other than the two of us, that were CEOs before, who inspired me. We also work, I know, few in the Eastern Cape as well. So yeah. But when I was young, I had a mentor, and I always talk about him. When I was an intern, his name is Blessing Mohale, around 2011, and he spoke to me on so many levels and tried to sort of help me frame where I wanted to go as a pharmacist. And one day he called me to an office and he asked me, "What kind of a pharmacist do you want to become?" And I didn't have an answer at that time. And he said to me, "There are two kinds. The first kind is the kind of a pharmacist that waits for announcements to be made. And the second kind of a pharmacist is the kind of pharmacist that makes the decision and makes the announcements. So you decide which one you want to be." So I had to thought about it. I'm like, I don't want to be the one that receives announcements. I want to be the one that gives announcements. As a matter of fact, I want to be the one that sits around the table where decisions are made. So since then, I decided I'm going to build myself and position myself in a place where decisions are discussed. I want to be there. Because two things I know is that it is very difficult to be at the bottom because it's crowded. Number two, it is very difficult to be the one that receives instructions. Yes, there are people who are born to do that, but for me, it doesn't work for me to be the one that is on the receiving end of orders. I have a problem when I don't understand how solutions are cooked. I want to be the one that cook them. Besides that, I always had a motto, which I still live by, two mottos. One was, I make my life. I decide what my life looked like. Whether I fail or I succeed, I make it. Whether I'm known, I make it. Whether I'm obscure or high valued, I make it. The second motto was, and which I still use in most of my email signatures, you'll see, it's a statement that I derived from Jim Rohn. There's a quote by Jim Rohn that says, "Don't wish that things were easy, wish that you were better." So I took that, but I made my own statement to say that be so good that nobody can ignore you. And I live by that. I don't want to be an insignificant feature in the room. And so since then, I try to solve problems. I try to avail myself when there are difficult situations, and I solve them. As a matter of fact, I thrive when we're solving problems than when I'm watching things go wrong. That's
I
how
love that. That's wonderful advice from a mentor. And in terms of pharmacists, do you think that as a profession we gear up our pharmacists to think that way, or is it something that you think we need to work on, or is it something inbred?
To the majority, it is far-fetched. There's very few pharmacists that want to see themselves creating solutions and solving problems. As a matter of fact, there are many pharmacists, even in their own positions, they don't do what a pharmacist should be doing. When I was doing my master's, I interviewed Professor Hoos from SMU. And on a side note, we had a conversation, and he said to me, "You know, Mafarafara, we have a problem in the world that when you go to a pharmacy, you cannot tell the difference between a pharmacist and a pharmacist assistant." And I asked why, and he said, because pharmacists are doing pharmacist assistants' job. That is one problem we can't do it. That's a different problem by itself. But then secondly, there are so many of us who are pharmacists who don't think we are the solutions. And because we don't think we are the solutions, we become the problem. And as long as we are at that level, I mean, clinically speaking, many pharmacists don't want to be in the forefront. Administratively speaking and governance speaking, many pharmacists don't want to be in the forefront. People want the light load, they want the hidden environment, they want to be behind, not behind the scenes, but behind the line. You see, when you're behind the scenes, it means you are making things that are appearing, you create them. But when you're behind the line, you are waiting for others to move. And if 10 move, you are number 10. If 100 move, you are number 100. No. So that is where the problem is. And You can think about it in many different ways. There's so many great pharmacists in South Africa and in Africa and in the worldwide who are doing great research, who are creating great products, innovative solutions. I mean, there's a young pharmacist who just patented a cancer drug at SMU. Those are the kind of thoughts we need. Those are the kind of pioneering in thinking that we need. But hospital pharmacists are collapsing, not because there are no pharmacists, but because those who are supposed to solve the problems are the actual problems. Young pharmacists right now groomed in an environment that is careless, where you meet a young pharmacist who has been in practice for 2 years or 3 years, you ask them what they know. Half the time they don't know anything. But these people have been through the hands of senior pharmacists, which tells you, you see, Prof, if I want to understand you better, I don't need to have a conversation with you. I need to have a conversation with the people that you spend time with. And sometimes I don't even need to have a conversation with them. I just need to watch what the people you spend time with are doing. If I can have a moment with 5 to 10 people that you spend time with, I can tell what kind of a person that you are. Because we are the sum product of at least 5 people that we spend time with. And it's the same thing with our interns. We can tell what is happening in the profession by looking at interns, by looking at concepts. And maybe we need a solution there.
I agree with you, but how do we solve this problem? Because I mean, being an academic myself, and that's the reason I started the podcast, because I find that there's a sense of demotivation around the profession, especially amongst our young pharmacists. But how do we change it? I'm not sure what the right direction is to take, because in order to thrive in your profession, you need to own it. And you need to know what you are capable of. And I think there's a sense of not knowing what we have to offer. That's almost forgotten for some reason. And, if I look at our pharmacology, just our pharmacology knowledge alone, we have immense pharmacology knowledge. We have 2 years where we practice in pharmacology in our undergraduate program. But why aren't we the forefront of pharmacology in the profession? Why aren't we involved more in clinical matters? So I agree with you completely, but how do we change it? How do we change that mindset to get our pharmacists to own the profession and to showcase their talents?
So I published an article, sort of a piece on the SAPJ sometime, I think it's last year. 2. One, I wrote The State of Pharmacy. And then the other one, I was talking about who are we as pharmacists, right? Everything starts with identity. Everything. The way you present yourself starts with what you think of who you are. The way you talk, the kind of problems you want to solve, the kind of things you do, the kind of places you go, the kind of dress code, the kind of make everything. It's about who you are. It's a representation of who we are, of who you are. There is a philosophy that the United States of America has embraced, particularly if you go to the city of New York, for example, and Hollywood areas, where it's high star powered environments. They say, welcome to America, the land of the dreams, where dreams come true. That's number one. Whether a person believes in God or not, they say, God bless America. There's a reason why they do that. When you go to the schooling environment in the United States, they teach people that Americans can. They can do it. They're capable. They also teach them that they are the dominant caliber. They're not the followers. They're the ones that the world follows. So you listen to every president in the US, they talk like that. There's a reason why they do that. They want everybody to believe that they can. Even if they make a wrong decision, we will follow it as the right decision. Why? Because we believe everything American is correct, and we believe everything Chinese is correct. Why is it like that? is because of the philosophy. So there is a certain philosophy that in the schools of pharmacy may need to be introduced. The philosophy of identity. Who are we as pharmacists? You see, we are taught that we speak after the doctor has spoken. So if the doctor speaks, we think the doctor is right. Therefore, we do. We're not meant to be followers. We're meant to be leaders. But do we believe that? It has to start from an undergrad program where we teach the young pharmacists to believe that they are the ones to cause the change, that they are the leaders, that their voice matters, that their profession matters, that their qualification is genuine and is real and is powerful enough to be in the front. And then number two, we need to then take people who are doing it, who are in the forefront, CEOs, people who run businesses. There's a young pharmacist, and I know many people hate her. Her name is Patricia. She speaks her mind all the time. She owns a company called Farmers. Many people don't like her. I appreciate that woman. One, because she knows who she is. And she's not moved by what people say or what people think. No. And as a matter of fact, she's accomplished way more than her critics. And she has hired even her critics. She gives them jobs. Why? Because she understands who she is as a pharmacist. So she leads by creating solutions and making waves. And it doesn't start at the end. It starts when we introduce them to what pharmacy is. Pharmacy is a profession of leaders. It's a profession of pioneers. It's a profession of solution agents. I mean, it's pharmacists that are creating all sorts of magic and wonders in different spaces in health, but they don't believe it. They don't own it. Then the last thing is to tell the story. We don't tell the story. We wait for our story to be told. And I can talk about it as a Black person, as an African. Africa is waiting for people to write the story about Africans. Black people are waiting for somebody to write. So we don't write our story. Now, we need to have people, and I'm glad you're doing it as a podcast. This podcast needs to be aired and be made viral, even if it's in clips, where we take pharmacists. Look at what Adcock has done on, I think it's called Brave, right? Adcock has a program where they go to community pharmacists. I think the program is called Sponsors of Brave, and they take pharmacists who are doing something wonderful for the community as community pharmacists and showcase them there. So we need to tell the story of success. Where we've made interventions, we need to document it and tell the story. Pharmacists are doing so many crazy, wonderful things, but their stories are not known. They don't publish. They don't go to symposiums to share their best practices. They don't go to conferences and so on. You see, it's pharmacists who complain about paying for a CPD. And I've seen my counterparts, the allied professionals, they pay 800 every month to attend a CPD so that they can get a CPD point, because they understand that a CPD point is important for them. And that's why they understand that, because they know who they are. They know their value. They know what they bring to the table. And pharmacists need to know what they bring to the table in the different spaces.
I like that. Thank you. So from what I'm hearing, you think we need to we need to show ownership of our profession, but also to showcase what we do. And thirdly, I think innovation is key, where we need to showcase how innovative we are as a profession. Because I think our profession is just so dynamic. We have so many facets of pharmacy that we thrive in. And being the first point of call for somebody who needs some health assistance, I'm not sure why we're not owning it even more. Because your pharmacies are everywhere, right? At every corner, at every street, you'll find a pharmacy. And if anybody needs help, we are the cheapest service, because we often give free advice. Am I right? And we don't get remunerated for that. So it's those kind of aspects. I think as a pharmacist, we really need to own it. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, was to showcase what wonderful things we are doing in our profession.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
Maybe to come in there, you see, the Act and regulation says there are services within which a pharmacist may levy a fee.
Yes. Yes.
We read it in English.
Yeah.
So pharmacist A may choose to levy a fee and pharmacist B may choose not to levy a fee, then people will go to the pharmacist who doesn't levy a fee.
Yes.
But if it becomes, and even the medical schemes may choose to fund the services that the pharmacist, that consultative services that the pharmacist provides, because the Act does not oblige them, does not compel the medical schemes, the medical aids to pay for a pharmacist who's taking a blood pressure, who's taking glucose and cholesterol, who's providing counseling, yet there are fees for all those things, right? But if it was written as services within which a pharmacist levies a fee, it becomes a compulsory statement. Then medical schemes would say, of the 1,000 services buckets, we are choosing 70, we are funding them.
I agree.
Why?
So I think more so that we see this should become a norm instead of an exception.
Exactly.
Because I've been to pharmacies that levy fees. So why are they doing it, and why is the rest not doing it? If it becomes a norm, it becomes accepted by the public.
Yes.
So we need to change. But don't you think, Mr. Mafarafara, that as a profession we don't stand unified?
It's true, and it's painful.
It is painful.
It's true, and it's painful. We speak in divided voices. We present ourselves in different identities and ideologies and philosophies. We walk in the same road, but to different directions, different destinations. We do not agree on who we are and what should be ours, right? We have, let me give you an example. We are divided about NHI, National Health Insurance. We are divided about CPDs. We're divided about the fees that we should pay to the South African Pharmacy Council. We're divided about how pharmacists are trained. We're divided about how pharmacies are run, right? We're divided about whether we should wear a coat or not. We're divided about everything. We're divided on whether we should belong to this professional organization or the other. That is why everybody who thinks he's a leader is creating his own organization, right? And because everybody who thinks, I have followership. I have so many people that follow me. And I know if I was to create an organization, there'll be a few hundreds of pharmacists that would want to belong to the organization. But I don't want to do that. I can't do that. I'll divide the profession. You go to the elections of the South African Pharmacy Council for those 9 elected members. We don't know how to do it. You cannot have 100 people being voted for by just the 18,000 people. It's because we think, all of us think we have a voice. We don't have a voice that we want to unite behind, that we want to rally behind. We don't have a program that we want to sponsor, all of us, and push towards that solution. When a simple example, lately there was a publication about 1.7 billion that was made available to hire 1,200 doctors, 200 nurses, and I quote, other healthcare professionals. And then last week, the Minister of Finance delivered his budget speech, the second one this year. And in the speech, he said they have made money available to hire just over 800 medical comserves, and none about the other people. Now, we will not talk about it, because if I come out as a pharmacist, as Mafarafara, and I say, we are not the other, and we should not be classified as the other. We are pharmacists. We cannot go out and have somebody, doesn't matter who they are, and decide to name a pharmacist the other. We are not the other. We are not the professionals that are thought about last. There's no patient that walks into a hospital that can be serviced without the contribution of a pharmacist. None.
Exactly.
When a patient goes to an HIV counseling center, they need test strips that pharmacists would have somehow procured. When they go to an occupational therapist, they would need a gel to wrap them around so that they can massage them properly. When they go to theater, they need things. There is no patient who walks into a hospital that does not go through the hands of a pharmacist. But until pharmacists talk about that in agreement, it won't make sense to anybody who makes decisions at all. So we're sitting, we are all around the table, but all of us are holding our mobile devices, and one is on TikTok, one is on another. We are not sponsoring the same conversation. It is for the same reason that you have a podcast, you talk to pharmacists, but pharmacists are not watching it. Why? Because the things that talk about what they do, they don't want to be there. You know, I have an experience. 2018, I was leading a process of fighting for young pharmacists employment, 2018 and 19. And I had a group of young pharmacists behind me. We went all over fighting for their jobs. When I got to the forefront, where the teeth come strong, sharpened and shining, waiting to snatch my head, I turned around and I found myself alone. Right? This year, the same issue came again. There's a young pharmacist. Now, because they felt alone, they created their own organization. Now, after they've created their own organization, they become known. People start talking about them. Then we will come and start fighting them. It's just like that. When the young people want a table at the seat of authority, we think they don't know. Now, because they don't know, we exclude them. Now, when we exclude them, they feel rejected. Therefore, they want to create their own solutions. Because of that, they make mistakes. So instead of bringing them to the table and mentoring them and giving them direction and showing them where we come from, showing them the battles that we fought, failed, and won, showing them the scars that we had in the process, and then make them understand where we are and how we got here, and ask them, how do we think we can do it better? We say, we will do it for you. So then the young pharmacist says, you don't understand what we're talking about. And then we say, you don't understand what you are talking about. And then we divide ourselves. But in my language, we have learned that the smaller branch finds strength from the older branch. When you see us standing where we are and we are able to see fires, because we're standing on the shoulders of giants. But the giants and the young ones are not walking in the same room. They're not sitting on the same table. They're not facing one another. And the entire population of the profession is not talking the same language. And whether we know ourselves or what, if we don't see ourselves as one, when we go to National Department of Health, when you go to Medical Clinic, you go to VERT, you go to any institution and say, this is our solution, they will ask you, who are you? And you say, it's me and my 5. They'll say, what about the other 15? And then you say, I don't know what the other 15 are saying. They'll say, you know what? You can pack your idea. We're going to consult the other 15. When you go to the other 15 is pointing a finger against the other 5. And then those that make decisions like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Both of you get out. And then we lose.
I agree. I mean, the profession that I admire the most, based on what you just said, was looking at the doctors and how they're fighting us on PMAT. If we had stood unified on all the multiple decisions that impacted our profession over the past maybe 2 decades, we would have a totally different profession at the moment. We wouldn't be struggling with no jobs, etc. So I feel as if our profession is very reactive and not proactive. So that's also another concern of mine.
That's something.
We always, if you look at board notices, for example, we have multiple of board notices that come out that Pharmacy Council puts out, and I'm sure you're aware of it. And if you look at comments that are being made, there's just very few that takes the attention of pharmacists, like the RP course recently. But the rest of the things, we don't see a lot of communication coming from pharmacists. And once the decision is made, there's a lot of outrage around the decision that has been made, based on the fact that pharmacists don't respond. So yes, I think we know what our problems are, but I'm not sure we know which direction to take to find the solutions. And that's concerning as well. And I think as for you, who is a voice of pharmacy, which we are really thankful for all the efforts that you put in.
Am
uh,
I?
yeah, you are. I mean, that powerful article on the others was just very interesting. And I'm so glad that you did that, because it makes us think. It makes us sit back and realize, yes, we're not the others. We need to start fighting more for our profession.
We do.
So going back to leadership and your role in leadership, I mean, you really reached such great heights in terms of leadership. How would you coach young pharmacists to become leaders, become a leader?
I had a conversation, I think it's 2 days ago. Yeah, I think it's 2 days ago, with a young champ from Kopane, and he had other issues. So, but he wanted to, get into leadership. And I asked him, what's your problem? What is your biggest frustration where you are now? Because to get into leadership, you don't get into leadership to be where Mafarafara is. No. You see, if you have a wound, it's only you that knows that particular wound and how it itches. So what is your wound now? Study that wound, understand, how did I get to have this wound? How did I get to have this problem? If you have a problem that affects you, then you ask, who else is affected by this problem? Right? And who else is the victim? Who else could benefit from the solution to this problem? If we can find that, it's easier. So I'll tell them this. After I had a conversation with Blessing, and I got to realize that I don't want to be where solutions are announced. I want to be where solutions are discussed. Then I started looking, what are the problems? And which one do I want to solve? The problem I chose to solve is the problem of leadership. Because leadership does not leave a vacuum. So I didn't want a vacuum where I'm present. I want to fill that space. The second one was the problem of identity, who we are. That is why I keep repeating, we are not the other. We are not the other. So if any young person wants to come into leadership, I would ask them the same. What is your problem? When I'm saying your problem, I'm not saying what is it that you're really suffering, but what is that problem that you are attracted to? That when you wake up in the middle of the night and say, what can we do to help pharmacy? You can find me anywhere, anytime. And you ask me, Mafarafara, what do you think we need to do to improve healthcare, to improve public health, to improve anything? I'll tell you, deal with leadership. John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. You see, an army of sheep, an army of lions that are led by a sheep will always be defeated by an army of sheep that are led by a lion. Why? Because when the leader is able to roar, the followers can march better. They can run better. They have strength. So what are the problems that we need to solve? For me, it's leadership. If we can deal with leadership, we can solve a lot, economically, family, socially, whatever it is. So I'll tell them, what is the problem that you want to solve? What is it that you like? There are pharmacists that really like clinical practice. But clinical practice is broad. What problem do you want to solve in clinical areas? Do you want to solve problems in the ICU, in intensive care? Everybody's going into antimicrobial stewardship, but not doing antimicrobial stewardship. We don't have many pharmacists in non-communicable diseases today. And people are dying of non-communicable diseases. So I'd ask them, find your problem. After finding the problem, sharpen your teeth so that when you bite deep. You see, there's a danger in sending a soldier to the battle at the point of recruitment. You lose that soldier, and you lose other soldiers that are likely to join, because they'll think people die in battle simply because you send amateurs. So give them time, sharpen them. So I tell young people, you cannot lead if you're not led. You cannot be in authority if you're not under authority. You cannot mentor if you don't have mentors. You have to be a mentee first. You have to be a follower first. You have to be taught. You have to be a student first. So most of these young people, they have a problem. They're so hungry. They want to jump ahead, but they don't want to sit under and be taught. But also, we also have a problem that we don't have many who want to sit above and teach. So because there's that space, leadership doesn't leave a vacuum. The young people jump into the vacuum, and then they're likely going to burn. But find the problem, sharpen the teeth. You find it, you define it so good, you are so clear what is the problem. Then you sharpen the teeth, so that when you bite nice. When you speak, be clear, be crystal. We shouldn't be wondering, what is it that you really, I know where I stand. Everywhere you go, Mafarafara stands for leadership. I stand for the identity of the pharmacists. That is why I advocate for the full utilization of pharmacists, because I know who they are. I know what they're capable of. And I want everybody to know that the pharmacist is the best. I tell people, you guys have family doctors, but you don't have a family pharmacist. It's wrong. You need to have a family pharmacist. You need to have that pharmacist. And when you have a drug somewhere, you call that pharmacist. You know what? I have this medicine. What can I? But we need people to identify the problems and then find themselves with a clear, sharp mind on what exactly they want to do with it and develop the skills around that area. Then we could be fine.
I really like that. Yeah, thank you. So from what I'm hearing, you're saying, and the picture that comes to my brain is you can't climb up a mountain by starting from the top. You have to start from the bottom.
Exactly.
And you have to go through the trenches in order to earn your stripes, they say. So, and that's also a challenge that I see with young pharmacists is they want to jump the steps. And that's where the challenges come in, because they don't know how to handle the situation when they are placed in a difficult position, because they haven't gone through the trenches. But you're talking about leadership a lot. And from leadership perspective, there's always a resistance to change. Either be it a resistance to change from the leader, but also from the people who want to be led. How do we tackle that?
What kind of cell phone are you using?
A Samsung.
What were you using prior to Samsung?
I've always had a Samsung.
All the time.
Yeah.
So
Creature of habit.
that's good. But somebody introduced you to the product for sure, somehow.
Yes.
So how do we get it done? You see, there are reasons why institutions fail, and I'll get to your question. One of the reasons why institutions fail is lack of a clear vision, lack of a clear future focus. There's a statement that I read some years in the Bible. It says, write the vision down so that he may run, he that sees it. So where we are and where we want to go will require change, and change is a constant. Now, how do we package the future is very important. There's one guy that I like so much, who created a product without a problem. And he just sort of convinced everybody that they needed it. His name is Steve Jobs. When he created this product called the Apple, we had good cell phones, but he made everybody believe those who are using Apple would defend it with their blood. So we need to then, instead of marketing the problems, we need to market the solutions. So the reasons why we have a lot of resistance, it will always be there, but the reason why we have more resistance is because instead of talking about the results, we talk about the process. We spend more time telling people we need to change, we need to improve, we need to do better. We don't show them where the future is. So we need to then, you see, the statement says, buy the future and sell it not. So we need to go into the future. Those of us that we say we are leaders, we need to go into the future and understand what the future looks like. And then paint it on a canvas of ideas and conversations and concepts and videos and everything, and put it in front of people. Once you put a product, people find a way to get to it. You see, if you told people that they would require to be in a virtual meeting, they would laugh at you 10, 15 years ago, even though we had Skype. We thought Skype is needed once in a while. It was not a conversational thing. It was not a common thing. So what do? A problem comes that says you can't meet, but you need to meet. You can't see this person, but you need to see this person. You can't talk, but you need to talk to this person. So instead of selling a virtual platform, a problem emerges. Now, the solution to that problem is meeting, but there's a physical barrier called COVID. Then boom, there's a surge of virtual platforms. Why? Because the future then gets to be told differently. And ever since then, it's very difficult for so many people to meet physically, even if they are there. You can be in a physical meeting, but receive virtual presentations. Why? Because the future is sold differently. So it's the same thing, even in the profession of pharmacy, we need to start looking, what does the future look like? Paint it so good, then sell the future. We don't need to talk about how to get there. Once people are convinced about the discomfort of where they are, they will automatically want to move.
I agree with you. That's the key to life, isn't it? To success. So talking about the future and how we're going to be part of that solution in the future, with NHI just, on everybody's minds, where do you see both private and public sector pharmacists fit into the NHI? And how do we make sure that we play a really crucial role? I mean, we know we are going to be part of it, but I'm not sure that we've convinced the higher powers that we play a critical role in the NHI.
So let's start with ourselves. Are we convinced that we are important? Because you can't come and want to convince another person about your role if you're not convinced about yourself. You know, the people that enter a room and take a space, it's not people who are asking for a table. It's people who are making sure that the table looks empty without them. So far, we are asking for a table. We are not showing that the table will always be empty when we are not there. And that's what is important with NHI. Pharmacists are asking the wrong questions. Not pharmacists, but many people are asking the wrong questions, generally. And we're asking the wrong questions from an uninformed perspective. Most of the people that are complaining, some of the people, so to say, not most, some of the people that are complaining about NHI, it's people who have never read the bill, or any other bill for that matter. It's people who have listened to sensational media statements and news outlets. Some are sponsored outlets, obviously, or conversations that are aimed at propagating a certain ideology from either one or two or three groupings. But if we by ourselves don't get to tell our story, you see, right now, before we can get to NHI, you walk into a hospital, you walk into a community pharmacy, you ask them, what is your value in the value chain? What's your contribution in the value chain? Where do you play a role in the value chain? Be clear about it. The processes, the systems, the environment, or the mechanisms may evolve, but the value will not evolve. It won't.
Mm.
So the pharmacists have to start looking at, what exactly am I here for? What is it that will not happen if a pharmacist is not there? Now, we focus on that and we tell it so good. That is why I talked about telling our story. So we need to find that thing that if we're not there, it's not going to happen very well. And we focus on it. Let me give you an example. Things such as therapeutic drug monitoring in clinical practice require pharmacists. Things such as antimicrobial stewardship require pharmacists to lead. Things such as adverse drug monitoring require pharmacists. Things such as medicine reconciliation require pharmacists. Things such as safe and correct use of medicines require a pharmacist. Medicine procurement, distribution, and storage require pharmacists. Medicine forecasting require a pharmacist. Patient counseling on self-care require a pharmacist. Health literacy require a pharmacist. When a person, there's no one in any household who does not need a pharmacist. And we need them at different spaces, at different times of our lives. And pharmacists have to get that first. Own it. By the time we walk into the decision rooms, when we enter, everybody must like, we made a mistake by not inviting you. They must not ask, what are you doing here? So they ask us, what are we doing here? Because of what you just said earlier, we are reactive.
Thank you. Very powerful words there, Mr. Mafarafara. In terms of, so in saying all of that, right, and I completely agree with you, there's so much more that we play a role in through the supply chain and the value chain in terms of the health sector. But don't you think that we are concerned, or should we be concerned, around innovation and AI technology replacing us?
No, not at all.
Why do you
Not at
think
all.
so?
Look, AI will not replace a pharmacist. Technology will not replace. As a matter of fact, it will make the life and the impact of a pharmacist better. It allows you to reach more people faster. It allows you to do more things easier. The pharmacists that embrace technology will replace the pharmacists that do not embrace technology. So those that do not embrace technology will not be wiped out by technology. No, they will eliminate themselves by not embracing it.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. It's that simple. So where we are now, we need better ways of doing things. And some of them already exist. We need innovative, we need faster processes. The world is moving into one global village in a cloud space. And we need to enter that cloud space and take our space and own our corner in whatever way that we can. So what technology has done, it has made health to be more accessible. Now, pharmacists need to find their own way of how do we make health accessible. I mean, right now, I'll give a simple, lousy example. Because people want things fast, they want things quickly, they better not cook. They'd rather not cook, but go to a drive-through restaurant and get something. Now, the South African Pharmacy Council has legislated, there's a fee now, I think there's a process that you can register a drive-through pharmacy.
The minimum standard is out. Yeah, it's been out for a long time.
There. But do we have a drive-through pharmacy?
We do. I've been to a few.
And that's an opportunity, right? That's an opportunity. There are pharmacists who can talk like me, who can just open their own little corner room office and become consultant and just give health information. And they will become proper, they will have used their skills much well. And then they can use this technology to innovate their own solutions. There are pharmacists who are working in courier pharmacies. And we can use these virtual platforms to reach to the patients that we are dispensing to, and even monitor the performance of the patients. Look at how diabetes is monitored with this thing that you put on your skin.
On your arm, yes.
on your arm, and you can monitor your sugar levels across, and your doctor can interact with you from that little thing. The pharmacists can also interact with you. They know how to then monitor you. They know how to make proper interventions. If we could go, all of us, on cloud right now and have an integrated a healthcare management system or patient management systems or whatever we would call it, where the different private sector institutions have access to the medical history of a patient in the public sector, and the public sector have access to the medical history of a patient in the private sector. It makes patient safety even more better. It becomes a great thing. But we can't, when you move from one pharmacy to the next, nobody knows what happened to you. We don't have access to your history. That means we can easily become danger to your health because we don't fully know what you did. Because an ordinary patient would not remember the medicines they're taking.
Absolutely.
But if we have access to all those parameters, those dynamics, there are certain people who do not know how to explain their own conditions. But we can read the clinical information. If we have access to it, it improves the quality of care. It safeguards the livelihoods, and it makes the better use of our economy.
I agree. Patient outcomes are improved.
Patient outcomes are
For me, I think technology would be, it is a great opportunity for us to showcase our skills. So the menial tasks get put aside or done by automation, for example, and our focus should be the patient, where clinical skills come to the fore, where we can spend more time counseling our patients, we can spend more time evaluating our patients to be able to see, what solutions we could offer them. And that's how you gain trust, isn't it? That's the way we want to move forward in our profession, is to gain trust with the patient so they keep coming back to you, where you establish a rapport and a relationship like the way it used to be. I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood where we went to the same pharmacy for as long as I could remember. And we've lost a sense of that within community pharmacy. Yeah, it is gone.
It's gone.
So, and we need to bring that back. And I think technology will help us bring that back.
And
So
look at what Rwanda did. I think I was reading an article. Rwanda has introduced this smart traffic management solutions that changes with traffic intensity.
Yes, I've seen that.
That's what technology does. It brings important solutions to be accessible to those that use them and those that benefit from them.
It's about efficiency and effectiveness.
Yes.
Everything just becomes more efficient and effective. Yeah, absolutely. So you've done a lot of work around organizations such as SAIP and the PSSA. You've played really important roles there. Do you think what is the one skill that, after experiencing or being part of these organizations, one skill that you would want to part to all of these people that belong to these organizations, be it young graduates or pharmacists that exist within these or any organization, one skill that you think was lacking and you would like to really reinforce, other than the things that we've spoken about already, which were quite clear in terms of your identity and ownership, etc. But one glaring thing that you've noticed in these positions that you've held?
I think maybe let me talk about two things. One is proactiveness. I'm not going to spend more time on it. I've learned that problems frustrate people who wait. And by being in Sahib, I've realized the more you wait for something, the more it frustrates you. So I've learned that there is a need for people who have ability to jump faster, who don't procrastinate. That's number one. Number two is networking. You see, we went to the International Pharmaceutical Federation World Congress in Cape Town. And I know there are people who went there, but they didn't make friends. They went with the people that they know, came back with the people that they know. They missed the whole point. So being in this national association has connected me to people who think differently. to people who are able to confidently come to my face and say, Mafarafara, you're bluffing now. Stop it. So, and I got to be at a place where I meet people who are far ahead from me, who think faster than me, who think greater than me, who talk better than me, who know too much than I do, who have bigger networks. Because you see, the solutions that you need are in the hands of somebody. But sometimes you need someone who knows someone, who knows someone, who knows that person that you need. So being in the association and in the profession, in the PSSA, has developed a different network for me. I get to know people outside the country who I can talk to when I want to do something in pharmacy. So that for me is important. And by knowing these people, by having a better network, it enriches you. It changes you. It challenges you. It helps you become more valuable.
Yeah, it shapes your thinking.
It shapes
absolutely. Yeah, I agree. So mentorship is something that's been something you've been mentioning quite a bit during our conversation so far. And I personally think we don't do enough in the pharmacy space in terms of mentoring. What would be your solution? How can we help each other? And networking as well. What would be the easiest way to do this to uplift the entire profession? What would be your solution?
I don't have a full one size fits all, but I would say let those who know teach. Now, let those who know teach. If we can get a few of us who know something, teach. Number two, if we can get the people who know the right things to be the one that are speaking, we can also contribute. We can change that. Maybe the last thing, which I think is the most important one, is to find a way to get people interested. So the biggest problem is not the challenges that we're facing, is the lack of interest in the solutions. It's the same reason why you would find very older people sitting in the dispensing window, not bothered by writing out of stock on a file. Why? Because they're not bothered by the bigger picture. They don't know the bigger picture. And I think that is what we may need to do. So those who know, let them teach. And I think that is where we can, because it's not the mentees that know they need to be mentored. It's those who know that they need to teach. So if those who know can teach, it's easier to pull the rest of the people ahead. And then maybe the last one is to go back to our initial conversation, telling the story. Let those who are mentored tell the story of what mentorship did to them. That is why when you ask me, how did I get here? I mentioned Blessing Mohale. Blessing Mohale, I think, is a manager somewhere in Gauteng in a tertiary hospital.
I know Blessing, yeah.
Why do I keep mentioning him? I'm trying to show them I didn't get here by myself. I stood on the shoulder of a giant. Therefore, let them find another giant to stand on, and then they themselves become a giant for others to stand on.
That's really that's crucial to growing. Whenever I think of mentoring, I always think about and I'm sure you you know this motivation statement where it says you rise by lifting others.
Yes.
And that's something I try to live by. And my mentor, Prof. Shalak, she's been a pillar of strength, and she's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have achieved success in my academic career without her. So I completely understand that you need that mentor. And sometimes people aren't aware that they need it. And I think you self-reflection is very important in your career path and to move forward. You have to self-reflect to see where your gaps are, to understand that you potentially you need the help, and just to push yourself. So, I mean, I'm fascinated with your self-development and personal development facet of your career path. In terms of coaching, and you seem to harp on or praise or motivate or pursue self-mastery in everything that you do. What's one of the daily habits that's really transformed you in your career, in your leadership, in your success, in your life, really any facet of your life? What has been that
Mm.
one daily habit that you would like to share with us that maybe will inspire somebody to do the same?
The biggest one is reflection. The biggest one is reflection. I published a book called Step to the Next Level. And in the preface, I talk about this reflection. Some years ago, I had contributed to so many young pharmacists and so many other people, and they looked up to me as successful at the time. But every day when I went home, I felt like I was losing. But these people looked at me and said, but Mafarafara is great. And I felt like I was collapsing inside. And I met a gentleman, I think he, at the time, I'm not sure if he think he was working for University of Pretoria, if not UNISA. His name is Sistenius Makubele. And he was teaching on a concept called free mind. Free mind. And he published a little, but a very little, easy to read book, can finish in 90 minutes. It's called Get Out of Your Way. Now, in that little book, he talks about how you need to get within yourself and reflect on where you are. Then during the same process, I met another guy, and he taught me the power of journaling, right? I write a lot. So everywhere when I'm in a meeting, I'm listening to people, I try to write, to figure out what is being taught, what is being talked about, and so on and so forth. Why do I do that? Because I feel it's important to write your thoughts, know your thoughts, assess your thoughts, think about what you're thinking about. So I spend more time thinking about what I'm thinking about. And that sounds like tautology. But if I've had thoughts, I need to go back and reflect on my previous thoughts. That is how you move forward. Because sometimes you know, there are people who are on a treadmill running, they're sweating, and they look like they've moved, but they will step down the same place where they hopped in. So it doesn't help to be moving when you're not making progress.
I agree with you. I love that. I believe in that philosophy as well because I think your life is shaped by your thoughts. Everything that happens in your life is based on your thoughts.
100%.
I'm very sad that we're coming to the end. So I have a few more questions. I could talk to you for a really long time.
Okay.
Such an interesting conversation. In terms
Yeah.
of where do you see yourself and where do you see pharmacy in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see pharmacy being respected, being valued, being appreciated, being the pillar that it's supposed to be, being the cornerstone of health. That's what I see. In the next 5 years, I see myself having a wider platform to advocate for the profession, whichever way that I can find. But I want to see myself advocating more. Secondly, I see myself influencing the African continent in pharmacy practice, particularly on the value that pharmacists can contribute. So influencing and advocating in 2 ways: to the pharmacists themselves, about themselves, and to the consumers of the work of a pharmacist.
Thank you. One of the questions that came off the LinkedIn page, and it's one of my colleagues and friend, Dr. Stephanie Lee. She asked to ask you, how do you stay motivated in a almost always evolving profession? How are you always so inspiring and motivated in the profession?
In the profession, that's a difficult one. Yeah, that's a difficult one. But I think my self-reflection keeps telling me that I have something to offer. And I may not be able to offer it the same way all the time. So I want to keep evolving. But what keeps me going is every day there is somebody who wants to hear me. Sometimes they don't want to hear me, they want to see me. There is one person, every time I speak, I'm invited to speak to an audience. I target that if I can help one person, I would have helped a family. If I can help one family, I would have helped the community. If I could help one community, I would have helped society. If I could help a segment of society, I would have contributed to the world. So every day, there is one person that I'm looking to inspire. And I know that if I fall, that one person can cause problems for so many people. I don't know who that one person is, but I'm trying to make sure that that one person that looks up to me finds hope when they look at me, so that they don't lose hope and then 1,000 people lose hope. That's what keeps me going.
That is inspiring. It's a ripple effect. We should all live our lives to have a ripple effect.
In full. Live it in full.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned your one book, and the other book was, I think it's called Finish with a Bang.
Yes.
Very interesting. I'm looking forward to reading it. Where do we find your books if we had to look?
Just yesterday, I was somewhere in OR Tambo, and somebody asked me the same question. And I said to them, I started by saying, the mistake that I made was to self-publish. Because you find the book from me.
Yes, yeah.
But probably in the next 2 years, I will change, and then my next book will be published with an agency so that it can be in the shops. But you find it from me now.
Okay, so we reach out to you. Can we reach out to you via LinkedIn, or is that the best platform? Okay.
Anywhere where my name appears, you reach out to me.
Okay, wonderful. I look forward to reading it. So concluding two last questions before you leave. What book would you think has shaped you in your life that you would recommend for all of us to read? Be it inspirational, religious, spiritual, whatever it may be, that really has shaped you.
There's a book by Rick Warren. It's called The Purpose-Driven Life. It's a very little 40-day devotional. Very powerful. The second book is the Bible. The Bible, it's a roadmap for me. It's my manual. It's my identity. It's a reflection of my purpose. It's the source of my strength, my prayers, my meditation. My future is locked up there. When I'm stuck, I get unstuck in the Bible. When I'm lost, I get found in the Bible. When I don't see, my eyes get opened in the Bible. When I'm numb, I get sensitized in the Bible. When my voice fades, I find my words again in the Bible. So those are the two books that I think were the pillars. Then there are a few many other books that I read as I grew up, as I lived. But I think there's one thing that made me read, and I need to talk about it. And I would not have done justice if I don't mention it. When I was about 15 years of age, my dad, may his soul rest in peace. He died when I was 16 years old or 17. He said to me, my other name is Given. So he said to me, Given, you are smart. That's what he said to me. And then he said the second thing, he said, you must read books so that you can become smarter. Because if you read books, they will open you doors in rooms that nothing else can open for you. And they'll solve problems. So if anything, it doesn't have to be the books that I read, but read. Because a stretched mind never goes back to its original.
I think it was Dr. Seuss that said it takes you places, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Reading takes you places. Yeah.
It takes you places. Yeah.
Any concluding remarks, Mr. Mafarafara? What would you like to say to young minds, somebody feeling uninspired, whatever you want to conclude with?
I'll say two things. One, be yourself. Number two, know that you matter. Know that you matter. Even if people have said you don't, you matter. Even if your employer said you don't, you matter. Even if you don't have a job, you matter. Even if you have failed, you matter. It's people who think they matter who do things that matters. That's it.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. What a powerful and purpose-driven conversation with Mr. Nhlanhla Mafarafara, a living example of what it means to lead with integrity, serve with passion, and uplift the next generation. As we wrap up, remember this: the future of pharmacy doesn't just need more professionals, it needs more leaders. Leaders who are bold, who speak up for change, and who are unafraid to challenge the status quo. Mr. Mafarafara's legacy reminds us that when we nurture young pharmacists, we're not just investing in careers, we're positioning them to take inspiring steps, transform systems, and build a healthcare future grounded in excellence, ethics, and purpose. So, wherever you are in your journey, be intentional, be courageous, and above all, lead with integrity and passion. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, keep persevering, because pearl by pearl, step by step, we're shaping a better world of healthcare. Stay motivated and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Until the next time.